Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are on the world, and welcome to yet another great Eco Insights. And today, I've got special guests from South Africa, and so we're delighted. So I'm in Mallorca, the ladies are in South Africa, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Trilogy Luxury Training and ex-Yatis, and they've got a good story to tell. Let me start with introducing Lauren. Lauren, you're the owner of the company. So
Yes.
you want telling me something about yourself before we start?
Certainly. So, yep, as I said, I'm Lauren. So I started Trilogy Luxury Training. I was in the industry. I was in yachts for 12 years. I left in 2015 and I left to start a family. And also, after having had my child, I just really felt like I had this amazing amount of knowledge and I could still learn more. And yachting was such a big part of my life that I wanted to still be involved. And something I always really enjoyed doing was training. I trained for the British Butlers Institute of London as well. And it was sort of that gave me the confidence to then move into yachting training and thinking, hey, I can do this. I can actually, train people. And so Trilogy was born. Trilogy is what most people know is three. Land, air, and sea, and our eventual goal is to train luxury hospitality on the land, at sea, and in the air. Then that's who I'm a mother of two. I've got two boys, married to a yacht chef, and I'm very lucky to do what I love every day, which is sharing the knowledge that I gained during my time in the industry.
Yeah, because you were chief stewardess, weren't you, Lauren?
I was, yes. I was chief stew for 9 of those 12 years.
Wow, so you did well. And I know which vessel you're on. I think we cannot disclose that, but it was one of the it's one of the impressive vessels in the industry that everybody knows. Let's keep it at that. Is that correct? So
yeah. I learned a lot about the interiors on that vessel.
yeah. And so I think Lauren's going to be it's going to be great with Lauren, but we don't only have Lauren with us, we also have Laura with us. And I need to Laura, welcome.
Hi. Yes, it gets a bit confusing sometimes with the Laurens and the Lauras. But yes, so I'm Laura, and I also worked in the yachting industry for 15 years, actually. It was only supposed to be 1 year, as these things happen, and 15 years later, there I still was. But I had such an incredible time working on yachts. I was so fortunate to have worked on some really large, prestigious yachts. I worked as chief steward on a lot of yachts around about the 100-meter or 100-meter plus, which gave me a lot of sort of management aspect of the yachting industry. And I've been talking to Lauren for a number of years about dealing with the management side of things and training more for the senior stewardess. And at the end, when was it? In January last year, I quit my last boat and I came back to South Africa. And then, of course, lockdown happened, and it just seemed like such a fortuitous time for us to really get together and finally put together this course that we have been talking about for so long. So we put together a senior stewardess course, which is guest approved. And so that's how I have joined Trilogy. So I've been with Trilogy now for just over a year, and I'm just so enjoying being able to share my knowledge. As Lauren said, 15 years in the industry, it would have been a shame to just walk away and not be able to give back in some way. And I just feel like I've got great experience and a lot of knowledge to be able to share with the up-and-coming chief stews that are in the industry.
Fantastic. So I am surrounded by some amazing people, ladies and gentlemen. And not only are they amazing at what they do, I know that Trilogy also, you've been nominated for the Super Yacht Business Award, haven't you, Laura?
Yes, we have. We're very excited. Sorry, did you say Laura or Lauren?
Lauren.
I'll let you answer that, Lauren.
Thank you.
I'll work on my pronunciation. Lauren.
Thank you. We were nominated, and we're so excited to be and honored to be included in this, especially as still quite a new and young company. But we're holding thumbs, we're putting it out there and hoping that we get a good result.
Yeah. And also they're supporting the crew awards for the crew. And so, I mean, So they not only have great experience, they also actually care about you guys. And I think that's what we're talking about. Like today, we're talking about crew training and selecting the right training school. And I think the objective of Laura and Lauren is not necessarily to promote themselves, but to give you insights on what to look into. So this should be an objective run through on what is possible. Correct, ladies?
That's correct.
Exactly.
And like you say, Onno, for us, a big part of what we do is which is very important to us, is that people are successful in the industry, and that they have the experience that we had, where it's been such a huge part of our lives and such an enjoyable part of our lives. And we get the privilege of now of helping other people to take those steps and to be successful, either entering into the industry or, like Laura said, stepping up into a more senior role.
Fantastic. So thank you so much for doing this today. And I hope that everybody who's watching this is going to pick something up from it. And I'm pretty sure they will, because we're talking with experience. So I think what you want to take away from today is the benefits of trained crew. So the benefits of being trained as well, how to choose a training provider, and also a bit insights on who the accrediting bodies are in the industry and what they stand for. I think that's especially point 3 is really, really interesting, especially for the interior, because like for deck and engineering, we know a lot about it, and I'm delighted that for interior it's growing and growing and improving and maturing over time. So I think that's fantastic. So I think we're onto something really, really good. Yeah. But much further ado, I'm going to leave the stage to Lauren and Laura. How's that pronunciation going? Are we getting there? Which means I'll start at their presentation, let them handle it, and I'll just pop in if I feel that I've got something that I want to know more about, or if I have any questions. And ladies, it's stage is all yours. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Laura, I'm going to let you start with this one.
Okay. Perfect. Well,
do you want me to move to the next one?
Yes, please.
I've got it. There we go.
I'll cut you on. Thank you so much. Okay, so basically we wanted to talk about what is the benefits of having trained crew and why it's important for you to be trained. So one of the things that's always puzzled me is, why do we have hospitality training for shore-based hospitality jobs, but why is it not pushed so much on yachts? We know the standards we have to work towards, they're so high. And if you don't know what you're doing, the amount of pressure that's on you and the amount of stress you put yourself under is just crazy. I know people who are not sleeping, they're stressed to the nth degree, just trying to get things right for this high-end service that we are supposed to be provided. And when you don't have good training to fall back on and to lean on, you just hoping for the best, and you're just making yourself more stressed out and not providing the kind of service that's really expected of us. And so this to me is why it's so important to have trained crew. I know that when I was in the industry, I really loved to see CVs where stewardesses had taken the time to get some form of formal training, so that when they arrived on board, they at least knew what the basics were. Because when you know what the basics are, you really can start to make sure that you're getting things done right and correct, rather than still learning the basics and running around a bit like a chicken without a head sometimes.
No, for sure. And it's like you were saying, the land-based, you have to go to hotel school. You can't just walk into a land-based job in these prestigious hotels, whereas in a yacht, you can. So why isn't the industry insisting that people have formal training, when the stakes are so much higher, that there's such a more of a spotlight and more of a focus on the service that's expected, and people are expected to join in. And like you say, Laura, and I remember as well, looking at CVs, and some boats require silver service and they require all that, and some boats don't. But being able to be a jack of all trades, I think, is so important in the industry. And knowing that I had girls coming aboard who had training, and obviously there's training schools, reputations, the training they're going to get from that schools. Just a little bit of reassurance for myself as a chief stew, knowing that okay, this person has got a bit of an idea. It's not going to be a starting from zero, and especially for like we were saying earlier, the yacht that I worked on, we had an incredibly detailed interior with very, very, very delicate, and most yachts do, with, all sorts of different fabrics that if you don't treat it properly, you're going to lose a lot of money. You're going to cost the boat a lot of money, which, like you were saying, puts huge. And Laurie, you've got a fantastic story actually about a silver handrail that we were discussing. So, and this for the yacht and for the person, this must have been very stressful. But please.
Yeah, I worked on this yacht which had a silver-plated handrail going up a staircase which was 4 stories high, and someone decided to use bicarb of soda to clean it. Needless to say, that's the incorrect thing to be doing, and the whole thing turned bright orange. The whole thing had to be dismantled, sent away to be replated and reassembled again, which cost, as you can imagine, millions of pounds. So these are the kinds of things that happen when people are unsure of what they're doing and guess, basically.
And I think that's why, as we were saying, that's why we think training for crew is so important, because it gives the employer, look, that could have happened to somebody who was trained, but maybe someone who's trained has the confidence then to say, okay, I don't know how to do this. This is something new to me, and and gives them the confidence to then be able to not just take bicarb to the silver handrail.
Yeah. Yes. Just also to come back to hotels and yachts, it's on a yacht you are under a spotlight, really. I mean, you're a handful of people in front of your guests. It's not like a hotel where you're one of several hundred staff, so you can hide away a little bit and get away with learning on the job. On a yacht, you are in the spotlight from the get-go, and you're expected to work to perfection from the get-go. And just having that training is really going to help with your confidence and with the smooth running of a yacht. So it's just, for me, beneficial from both sides, from a crew member so that you have the confidence, and also from senior crew knowing that you've got people on board who have an idea of what they should be doing and shouldn't be doing.
And I think, we're seeing a lot of job posts, and especially with the people who train as our junior stews, our green stews who come through the training school here. They're the thing I hear from them the most, because one of the things, once people have passed through our training, we keep in contact with them. We've got a WhatsApp group, so we try and support them every step of the way, even right through to their senior stew days. But they keep saying to me, like, oh, Lauren, but all the job posts say 1 year's experience or 2 years experience. Maybe with more formalized interior training, it will start saying with yacht stew training instead of 1 year's experience, because that's generally what people want, is that somebody who's going to walk on board and have some clue. So, maybe if, with more experience, it's going to be that people are, noticing that it's, sorry, there's someone who's just walked in. I'm very sorry, I'm on a webinar. Sorry, I don't, but would you send me a WhatsApp? Sorry, thank you, yes. So sorry, I'm so sorry. So sorry about that. We can edit that out.
We can edit it out, but we can also leave it in, because it's part of life, right? It's like also part of your yachting life to know how to handle these kind of situations. You did extremely well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Sorry, everyone. We are a school. We do have people coming to ask about training. So, maybe we can change that from 1 year experience, and maybe I'll get some backlash from this from all sorts of people, but to maybe, obviously 1 year experience is different, but maybe to 1 year experience or stewardess training, So, something to think about.
It's always so lovely hearing from the junior stews who have done the training here, who send feedback saying how happy they are that they were comfortable going onto their first boat. So at least, when the chief stew said, go and clean the day head, they knew what the products were, and they knew what the day head was, or, where to find the galley, or, just all these things that really help to make your transition into yachting world easier and smoother.
But
really
even
does make the world.
sorry,
Sorry,
even things like knowing what your contract has to say, knowing what your
Absolutely.
rights are as a seafarer. I mean, how many, and I'm sure there's people listening now who, if you think back, and I know I'm one of those person, I'm going to put up my hand. My first boat, I didn't have a contract. I didn't know I had to have a contract, and I think back now and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so dangerous, and what your contract says, and understanding what a port of repatriation is, because, it's one of the things I often say to people, if you're not sure, ask. It's such an important part of getting a job, any job. You would never take a job without a contract, but everybody thinks yachting is, they don't know, I suppose.
Exactly, and everyone's so desperate to get a job, they take what they can to begin with and get exploited. And it's important to know that you do have rights. As a seafarer, you do have rights. What should be in your SEA, that's your contract, that, as Lauren says, you absolutely should have a contract. Do not get onto a boat that is not offering you a contract. So it's just important to know these things and to know where you stand as a seafarer before embarking on this new adventure in life.
And exactly, and it's not just learning the soft skills, like we said. It's learning all the life skills that comes with it. Sorry, learning the hard skills. Sorry, the hard skills.
Exactly.
I did it again. We had this discussion the other day. And it's learning the soft skills and the life skills of yachting as well. What happens if you get harassed? What happens if you don't get paid? Those sort of things. And I think a lot of, especially the guest program, especially in our introduction to guest, if any of you have done guest or gone through it, it's part of the syllabus is to go through the hierarchy on board, how you communicate, how to get a job, those sort of things. So yeah.
Exactly. So just looking here at this first point, the super yacht industry is synonymous with service excellence, and this comes through training. Now, I know so many times people are like, oh, it's the interior, it's a bit of housekeeping, a little bit of service, some laundry. Really, how hard is it? But we're not talking about what you do at home. We're talking about this 5-star service plus. It's got to be absolute service excellence. And nobody just knows that. And that's why you need some training in order to be able to know what is expected of you. What are the standards that are expected of you when you step onto one of these vessels? As we briefly touched on earlier, some of the fine finishes that you'll find on board cost an absolute fortune. You need to know how to be able to take care of it. It's not your bed linen that you've bought at down the way at JC Max or Mr. Price here in South Africa. Or, it's things that really need special care and special attention. And so training gives you that knowledge on how to take care of these very, very special and fine finishes.
No, for sure. And I think, a big thing, and it's something that I know, Laura, both you and I always talk about, and we talk about in our training when we train, is confidence and how important confidence is. And one of the ways we gain confidence is by learning, is by training, is by getting that information. It sounds cliched, I know, but knowledge is power. And it just gives you that much more confidence. And it might mean the difference between you and someone else getting that job, just you having that confidence. It's an unseen quality that shines through. And, having this knowledge behind you really does make a difference, I feel.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't want to be that wild-eyed person standing in front of a guest when they ask you for something and you're like, I have no idea what he's talking about. You need to have the confidence to be able to deal with situations because, as we said earlier, on a super yacht, you're under the spotlight. You're not one of hundreds of crew necessarily. There are obviously large boats these days with a large crew. But for the most part, you really are very much face-to-face with guests. They're going to ask you questions. You need to know what you are talking about and be able to give answers that make sense. And if you do this, it's going to make the guests feel confident in your abilities, in your team's abilities. And that's really just going to help the overall experience of the guests on board. And at the end of the day, that's what we're there for, is we are there to make sure that the guests have the very best time possible and make sure that they have an amazing stay. And if they have a boat filled with crew who are unsure of themselves, that's going to negatively impact on their experience and something that they're paying a lot of money for.
Yeah, whether it's a charter or whether it's owners, definitely, 100%. So moving on, we've discussed, obviously the benefits of trained crew, also that it affects our personal development as crew as well. And this is your saying, Laura, we say that crew become proactive rather than reactive. So prevention is better than cure, that they are really, able to deal with situations instead of just reacting to situations.
It really will help you to think ahead and be able to anticipate a guest's needs. I mean, we always talk about this in service excellence, anticipating a guest's needs. And when you have, when you're trained well and you've got a lot of experience, this is something that will come. It'll really, really help you to be able to anticipate what guests are going to want and be able to think. And that really, for me, makes an outstanding crew, is when you can really be proactive about situations. Because it shows when you're being reactive, when you're reacting to a situation, something hasn't gone according to plan and suddenly you're having to change the plan, which happens all the time. But you find yourself on the back foot and you don't really know how to deal with it. Whereas when you're well trained, you're confident, you know what is expected of you, you know where things are, how things work, how to make things happen pretty quickly. You can adjust as required and as needed.
100%, and I agree with you. And it's something that I think, again, we talk about often, is that because yachting throws you curveballs all the time. You think you're going down this route and suddenly the guests are like, we're going that way, and to be able to just smoothly go, certainly, madam, and that's the whole idea, is to make it look like there's so much effort that goes in behind the scenes to make it look smooth and beautiful. And like you say, for it to just of course, no problem, because we're there we're magicians, we make things happen, and definitely having that training behind you helps you make those miracles happen.
Exactly. I always say to the girls, we're like a fine, beautiful ballet when we come out. We're just making this beautiful ballet happen. They don't see all the hard work and the training that happens leading up to that moment and behind the scenes and the chaos that's happening in the wings. No, they just see the beautiful ballet that's happening, but that takes music. Work.
Perfect. And then, sorry, Karen, I'm interrupting you.
I was just going to say that this is something I just mentioned earlier, is that trained crew already know the basics, which means that you can really focus on perfection, because that's what we're there to do, is make this incredible experience for our guests. I mean, they should leave going like, oh my goodness, that was just a mind-blowing experience. I loved it. I'm going to remember this forever. It's incredible. I feel so, if it's an owner, I feel so comfortable. I feel at ease when I'm on the yacht. I feel like my crew are absolutely taking care of me. They know what they're doing, and I have complete confidence in them. And so it's great. Like, if we can really start focusing on perfection rather than on the basics, which you should know.
And as crew, that's an awesome feeling as well, to know that you've done the job. So,
Exactly.
It's such a gratifying feeling. So, so that leads us into, I suppose, how do we choose a training provider? Because there are so many, especially with lockdown, there's been so many trainings popping up. It seems every day I look, there's a new school or someone else offering, because also there's a lot of people leaving the industry like us who think, well, we'd love to share, we'd love to put our knowledge out there. But how do you choose? How do you know whether they are a good choice to spend your money on? And also, in entering the industry, but also during the industry, because you want to progress,
Exactly.
Laura, sorry, I'm going to leave it to you.
Sorry, one of the things really to look for is look at your accrediting. Who is the school accredited with? Are they accredited with anyone? I'm just saying, when looking for a school, it's really important to look to see if the school has been accredited by anyone and who the governing body is that they are accredited with. There are a lot of fly-by-nights or people who, that they of course have information and knowledge to share, but it's as with anything. I mean, if you're going to go and study anywhere in the world or study anything in the world, you want to make sure that you actually are studying with a school that is going to give you whether it's a diploma or a degree or a stewardess course, whether its paper is worth something at the end of the day.
And I think that's, why it's so important. The thing with being accredited as well is you have to jump through so many hoops. You're constantly being checked. And that at the end of the day, that certificate means something. It actually means, it isn't just a certificate of attendance. Anybody can attend and sit through and not gain anything. But with accredited, there's specific criteria in place that has to be met. And as an accredited trainer, for example, and I use us because obviously that's what I know, we have to have a file on each student. Each student has to attain a certain mark, and it's not us then just going, yeah, they're fine, they've passed, they can do it. They actually, for the junior school, it's actually written. They have to they have to get the scores and pass it. Otherwise, what's the point? We might as well just, say to them, oh, here's a certificate, yeah, here's the notes, don't even bother. It's so, and that's, as I said, we are audited to make sure that we uphold those standards, and especially in an industry that has such, as we were saying earlier, holds itself to such high standard. I think that the training providers have to do the same, and that's and going to the length of getting yourself accredited, I think speaks volumes, because it means that you take those standards very seriously, and obviously you have to uphold them. But there's one thing, leading on from that. And a lot of people say to me, yes, but, it's also the trainers. And I agree 100%. You've got to check a school's reputation, and you've got to check the trainer's experience and the trainer's reputation. I've heard talk in the industry where, people say, oh, but, they've got a good reputation, but their trainers have only been in the industry for 2 years or 3 years or something like that. What is the trainer's experience? Have they actually worked in yachting? Okay, maybe they haven't worked in yachting. Maybe they've been if it's a purser's course, maybe they're an accountant, and that's relevant to the accounting part of the purser training. But I think it's very important, and the trainer's reputation as well. What did they do in the industry? What is their background? Because I think, like Laura was saying when she introduced herself, she's worked on, and obviously we don't mention names as well, but she's worked on some very big name boats in the industry, and all 100 meters plus sort of thing. So she's had some very difficult jobs and owners, so she's got a very wide base of experience, which is why the girls who do senior steward course training with her get amazing information, an amazing base to then build themselves forward. So definitely check the school's reputation. And is it just because your friend's going there, or is it because when you get into the industry, people are going to look at that name and go, okay, I know what I'm getting with you, and it's going to make a difference for you to then get a job or not get a job, or even just get an interview at the end of the day. So and how do we decide that? How do we know the reputation or the experience? Laura?
Yeah, and the other thing to think about also when you're looking for, sorry, Laura?
No, sorry, I was going to say, you wanted to say something, sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just going to say that you also need to just make sure that the courses that are being offered to you are actually relevant to what you are wanting to do and what your goal is. There's no point in having someone sell you a whole bouquet of different courses, and it's not actually going to help you along the path that you are wanting to go along at the end of the day. So when you are looking for courses, make sure that you actually know what it is that you're looking for, what it is that you want to achieve, and that you are doing courses that are very, very relevant to the path that you're wanting to choose.
And I think
can I interrupt for a second?
Yes.
Because I find this very intriguing and interesting, especially when we talked about reputation and credibility of a school. Obviously, how do I, if I'm either new, green, or I'm experienced, because basically they're both sides count, how do I find out what the reputation is? Because if I'm new, I don't know anybody. The only thing I can, is there some kind of environment where I can see whether they are accredited or not, and if I'm experienced, how with your experience, how did you figure out which school was the best for you?
I think it's a bit of research. I'll answer. I'm sure Laura's probably got her thoughts on it. I think it's a bit of not just going with one school. You know, I think it's a case of asking a lot of questions, finding out what those people offer, finding out, maybe speaking to two. For me, it's a rule of threes. I usually ask, if I want to do something, I investigate 3 options, you know, but that's just me. I think it's also looking at, like you were saying, with being accredited, you know, if they advertise that they're accredited, for example, if we're accredited guest, you can go onto the guest website and you can actually see under accredited trainers, you will see both Laura and I, you'll also see Danielle, who also trains with us, our junior stew, and it's got that we're accredited there. You know, and we fall under IAMI, which is we're a subgroup of IAMI, which is the International Association of Maritime Institutes, who do deck and engineering training as well. And you'll see that we're listed as members of IAMI. So, you know, following up with those sort of things, there's a lot of forums around, there's a lot of groups. Those I always wonder about, because Facebook, everybody's going to put their favorite, aren't they? Whether that's really the best option or not. But then again, if you keep hearing the same name coming up, which often with us helps, people say, oh, everyone said on Facebook, I must get hold of you, you know. So yeah, I think it's a bit of research and from my part, I think.
So it's asking the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. But these days with Google, I mean, we've got a plethora of information at our fingertips. And it's important that as adults going out into this wide, crazy world and yachting, that we take responsibility for what we are going to be doing. And so do your research, make sure what you are going to be doing is actually going to be beneficial for you. You wouldn't just sign up for any old university and get to the end of your degree and realize your diploma is worth nothing. And so, you know, use Google, you do your research, have a look online, look at feedback from people, ask the school for feedback. You know, what have past pupils said? Have they got feedback on their websites even? You know, so.
I mean, even to the point where in the past people have asked me and I've said, well, look, would you like to speak to any of our students? You know, I'm very confident in letting that happen. And we've had it once or twice with, you know, ladies who've wanted to do the course, and I've given them contacts of people who've done the course that they can then ask, were you happy? And I think, you know, something very important what Laura touched on, this is a big problem within the junior industry, with this interior, is, you know, there's interior girls who want to go into the interior and guys who come with a VHF course and a powerboat level 2 and a jet ski instructor and all those sort of things, you know, and it costs, especially for us as South Africans, it costs a lot of money to get into the industry. And for that, you know, find out, do you need to do that training? Yes, if you've got the budget, I mean, it's great to have. I don't think, you know, and I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm just saying is that you need to research, because there's some training providers who will sell you everything in the kitchen sink because that's going to make them money, you know, and it's something that we talk about. Integrity is very important for us, is the integrity that people are successful in the industry, that we haven't blown their budget before they even get on a plane to go and look for a job, you know. So find out that as well. What is the integrity of your training provider? What is their goal? Are they trying to get you into and false promises? Oh, do our courses because you'll definitely get a job. We're very honest as well. You know, you've got to be honest with yourself. And as anyone who goes into the industry, the hardest part of it is getting that first job, you know, and understanding the best route to go about getting that job is so important, because, you know, and that's a big thing on training providers as well. It's a big responsibility for us, is because people are putting their faith in you to give them the tools they need to be able to then go, and they're spending a lot of money to go and get this. They're taking a chance. Some people are leaving a whole life behind to do it, you know, and that's quite a big responsibility. And I think a lot of people need to be more aware of that, you know. And I think if you're looking for a training provider who's more interested in your success than your bank balance, I think that's a pretty good indication as well.
Well, that's a good tip. I like that one. Thank you so much. I'll leave you.
I think so how do we choose our training provider? What we've spoken about that. And I think we can move on to, have we got anything more to say about that, Laura? Sorry, I'm moving on to who are we accrediting bodies?
No. Yes, who are the accrediting bodies? This can get so confusing, I know, and there's so much information out there. And even if you've been in the industry for years and years, it still can be a minefield to navigate. So who are the accrediting bodies? Who should we be listening to? What should we be paying attention to? So for the purposes of this webinar, we're just basically looking at the interior and interior courses. So for us, as Laura touched on, is IAMI, it's the International Association of Maritime Institutions. So they're actually like an umbrella company, and they've got deck, engineering, and now interior courses that fall underneath them. And then for us in the interior, it's the guest program. And this is the only internationally accredited maritime hospitality and service training, which is available to interior super yacht crew.
Yeah, and it's,
Laura?
you know, you've got to remember as well is that IAMI falls under the IMO, which is the International Maritime Organization. And IAMI, they're a British, you know, they are British based. A lot of people that sit on their board are British. And like Laura said, you know, they set the standards. They decide what is the minimum training that someone who works on deck or who works on engineering and now going forward works in the interior needs to have, you know. There's mandatory courses for deck and for engineering because obviously there's a lot more safety involved in there. But, you know, when it comes to interior, it's not, you know, that interior is just as important as the rest of the yacht. Yes, the guests want to ride jet skis. Yes, you know, we're all a big interlocking group where if the galley wasn't working, you know, the guests wouldn't be, it doesn't matter if they've got hot water and their toilets flush, they can't eat, you know. If the galley's working and their hot water and their toilets aren't flushing, then that's going to be a problem. So, you know, working towards setting the standards for interior is obviously a big thing, and that making it more standardized and recognizing the fact that it's such a integrated part. So that's why IAMI have now recognized and are going forward. The guest program has been around for quite a long time now. It was started by a lady called Joey Mean, who's done amazing work. And there's a lot of guest accredited training providers around the world. And, you know, for interior for us, at least we're setting a standard. Yes, we're all different training providers, but under guest, we're one big family because we're all working towards the common goal of raising the standard and the standard of training within the interior, so within the industry, to meet the expectations of our guests and just to provide a better, you know, sort of industry to achieve more in the industry. So, as I said, I think, you know, we were talking, I know I asked earlier about, you know, how do you know people are accredited? How do you know they're good? That's why going, you know, IAMI, guests, they've all got websites. We're all there, like we said, you know, and having a look to see if they are accredited with them. And you'll see most deck schools and most engineering schools also, if you go into it deeper, they will be accredited under IAMI. And then, you know, when you look past that, like we said, we're focusing on the interior. The IMO, International Maritime Organization, is the one who sort of oversees everybody, but we are just focusing more on these accrediting bodies. So that's really for when you come to interior, those are the people that you need to be looking for. Those are the acronyms, because we know that yachting loves acronyms so much, and maritime industry in general loves acronyms so much. So you can look for IAMI and for guests. So yeah, and the nice thing, both Laura and I sit on a lot of, we sit obviously, we're accredited with guests, but we also sit on groups where we're constantly reviewing the material. We're constantly looking at parts of our training that we offer under the guest program and saying, you know, we think that we need to focus more on this or more on that, or we need to incorporate this, because drawing on the different experience we've had over the years, we feel that it would be beneficial for it to be included in people's training at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Just to add to that, the good thing about doing a course that's being accredited, what that means really is that the courses had to go to the accreditation body and it's actually approved by them. So you can't just say, oh, I'm going to pay some money and be able to put your name behind my school. We've actually had to submit our course to these bodies. They've gone through them and make sure that what we are teaching is incredibly relevant to what is needed in the industry. And we Lauren, you already touched on this, but we have to keep feedback forms. We have to keep very stringent details and data on our students and how they have done. We can't just give a certificate of attendance. And it's like a continuous education that's happening. So it really helps us to make sure that we are offering the very best at all times. And that's what's so exciting about this guest program. As Lauren said, we're not the only ones. There are many other schools out there that are accredited by this. And we hope to see many more, actually, because the more interior crew that are trained, that are in the industry, the more exciting I think this industry is going to get. The level of service is just going to be through the roof. Can you imagine just the standards that will be able to be produced if we've got crew who know what they're doing? And when you know what you're doing, you love what you're doing. You get excited, you get happy. You're not stressed, you're not worried, you're not thinking, oh, I'm messing up, what have I done wrong? Worrying about, like, did he mean this or did he mean that? We know we've all been there. We've all had these terrible mind
self-doubt moments.
Self-doubt. Yeah. So just having these courses that really are to a high standard is really, really going to help the interior crew and the yachting industry in particular really just get to the next level. I think it's quite exciting as far as I'm concerned.
And also, the great thing about guest, and I'm just going to share with my screen here, ladies and gentlemen, so please just bear with me because we had a little problem. Can you guys see that? The guest program progression chart?
I can see it, yeah.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So, the nice thing about guest as well is they offer a progression. So you can see here we've got our guest one. And they offer a COC, which is a certificate of competence to prove that you have achieved this. Much like the deck have, so it's really just professionalizing the interior. So they've got, this is guest one, guest two advanced, this is your yacht senior stew, and you can see here it's got advanced food, cigars, laundry, housekeeping, all advanced, our valets, floristry, our first is just our basic, our introduction. So this is where somebody who's new to the industry would start. Then you can see you've had a bit of time, you want to move up, you can do more courses and apply for your COC. As a senior yacht stew, we've got, then move into management for our yacht chief stew, the purser course, which has been written by some amazingly talented people who come out of the industry who've had great experience with pursers. This is quite a new one. And then IAMI have now, that's actually the IAMI guest, the leadership program, which is something that both Laura and I have been involved in as well, is developing, because leadership it's not just being able to serve the guests, etc. As you move up the ranks, it's then knowing how to be a leader, and it's something that we've all struggled with as we progressed. I know that for myself personally, as I progressed, I knew how to do my job, but I didn't necessarily know how to be a leader, and that was something I had to learn on the job. And I don't think I did too badly at it, but I think maybe I could have done better in other areas, and I would have loved to have had the opportunity to just have had the information to give me the confidence to make better decisions. We've also got the guest chef, which leads into the ship's cook certificate, and sort of helping chefs progress from land-based. But and that's the nice thing about it, is that this is a standardized progression for people. So that's another great thing about being part of a recognized, sort of accredited body, is that there's actually progression, like with deck, like with engineering, that you can step forward up the ranks. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I've got to say on the subject. Laura, anything from you?
No, I think it's from me too. I think we've covered quite well about training, why we think training is it'll really, really help crew. Like I said, both people coming into the industry, people wanting to progress, and also it'd be lovely to see more of a demand from the management side for advanced trained crew, because it's just going to help elevate the service that we are providing on board.
Yeah, and from a financial point of view, I know it will hopefully keep crew retention, because you've got crew who are comfortable. There's less chance crew are going to leave. I think that's a big thing for management and for especially crew agents as well. Crew agents can really promote trained crew, and a benefit for management is that yeah, you're going to get a more professional crew and hopefully a bigger retention of crew, which then reduces crew recruitment fees. Sorry, recruitment. But you know what I'm saying, and I think.
But it helps them, because if they've got someone who's leaving before their 3 months trial period is up, they're losing, and it's like more work. So at the end of the day, it's in the agent's best interests to have crew who stay.
Yeah, you're right. And
and I know they do.
Sorry, I know. Yeah. Karen?
They care about retention, the recruitment companies, because no one is in. I mean, our industry is maturing very rapidly, so I'm delighted to see this whole progress, and I think that career path that's available for interior is amazing. So I would recommend everybody to take that path, because there's a great career out there for everybody. But I'm going to cut you ladies a little bit short, because ladies and gentlemen, we always say half an hour, because we know. Nobody can stick to that. We know it's always going to be an hour, which is fantastic. No, it's great. And because there's so much knowledge to share, I'm pretty sure we can do I would love to do a second one that goes a bit deeper into the path to choose stewardess or purser. Because I think I think we touched on a lot of very interesting things today. I've made some notes, and I just want to verify my notes. I've learned today that being trained also gives you confidence, but also gives you the opportunity to ask if you don't know, because you know you're trained. And that's what people sometimes forget, right? If you're untrained, you don't know what to ask. I learned that. I learned that experience is fine, but knowledge to training certificates is probably even better. So I heard you saying, like, what do you want, 1 or 2 seasons on a boat, or do you want someone who's got a specific certificate that proves you that they know what they're doing? Because I think, I don't know how it's with you, Laura and Lauren, did you learn from the previous Q2, or did you learn from experience, from training?
I learned, to be honest, I learned from my previous Q2, but then I went and got more training. So for me, it was more training, because there wasn't really the training when I entered the industry. So I then took that step myself. That's my personal experience. Laura?
I come from a hospitality background before getting into yachting, where we had quite a lot of in-house training. So I was lucky enough to be able to take a lot of that into yachting. And then, of course, when I was in yachting, I learned from chief stewards, and I did some of my own training. Try to keep up with courses as much as I could. So a bit of a combination of it all.
And sorry, that's one thing I wanted to quickly. Sorry, Arno, just quickly to mention that keep our guest accreditation, Laura and I have to continuously train as well. So we're still training, even though we train, we have to every year do a number of courses.
Be trained.
And be trained ourselves to be able to think of training.
I think, and I know that you have to, and I think that's key, because we all know from courses that we did, whether it's interior or in other lines of business, there's no fun being trained with someone who hasn't been in the business for 20 years or so it's good to keep your own knowledge up to date, to stick with everything that's current. I've learned as well that training gets you better jobs. I think that's an absolute fair point. And I've learned that being accredited, working with an accredited training provider that looks after your interests is probably something that you need. And so I've learned a lot today. Did I summarize it well enough?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Great. I'm gonna thank you so much for today. And as I said, I would love to do a second one that goes really into the career path. What does it take to become a chief stewardess on a 70-meter plus? Let's take that as I think a lot of stews. I don't want to say stewardess, because I know there's more and more gentlemen that are stepping into this line. And so I want to see if there's more and more chief stews. I think there's a lot of aspiring chief stews, and I think would be a great session to say, so what do you need to do to take that next step? Like during in your first phase of your career, your second phase, and then finally becoming that leader on that bigger vessel. I think that's a dream for people to come true. I think you've got a lot of knowledge in that. So I think that should be episode 2. What do you ladies think?
Totally.
That sounds fabulous.
Fantastic.
I'm excited for it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for today. We're gonna put this live. I'm sure a lot of people are gonna watch it, and I'm going to count down as I always do, and then it's like 3, 2, 1, and cut.